My brother got everything when Dad died. Mom told me to accept it. 7 years later, I exposed the truth. When my father died, I lost more than a parent. I lost my home, I lost my family, and for 7 years, I believed I had lost the only person who ever truly understood me. My brother, Adrian, stood beside my mother at the lawyer's office in a black suit that looked too expensive for a funeral. His eyes were red, but not from crying. Adrian had always known how to perform grief when people were watching. My mother sat beside him, holding a tissue in one hand and my father's gold watch in the other. I sat across from them, wearing the same navy blazer I had worn to job interviews, funerals, and every serious moment of my adult life. It was the only decent jacket I owned. The lawyer, Mr. Whitaker, opened the folder. He looked uncomfortable before he even spoke. That should have warned me. Your father's estate, he said slowly, will be transferred entirely to Adrian. For a moment, I thought I had misheard him. I looked at my mother. She didn't look surprised. I looked at Adrian. He looked down at the table, but the corner of his mouth moved just slightly. A smile. A tiny, careful smile. What? I said. Mr. Whitaker adjusted his glasses. The house, the lake property, the investment accounts, the business shares, and all remaining personal assets. Everything goes to Adrian. My chest tightened. That can't be right. My mother finally looked at me. Her eyes were tired, cold, and already decided. Daniel, she said, your father made his choice. I stared at her. My father would never do that. Adrian sighed like I was embarrassing everyone. Don't make this harder than it already is. I turned to him. Harder for who? He leaned back. Dad trusted me to handle things. That sentence hit me harder than the inheritance itself. Because my father had trusted me. I was the one who drove him to chemo appointments. I was the one who sat with him during the nights when he couldn't sleep. I was the one who helped him pay bills, sort medications, and run errands when Adrian was too busy closing deals, playing golf, or posting photos of himself at charity dinners. My father used to squeeze my hand and say, "You're the steady one, Danny. Never forget that." And now I was being told he had left me nothing. Not even his old truck. Not even the watch he promised me when I was 15. Not even a letter. I looked at my mother again. You knew? She didn't answer right away. Then she said the words that stayed with me for 7 years. You should accept it. I almost laughed. Accept it? Her face hardened. Your brother has a family image to maintain. He has responsibilities. You're younger. You can rebuild. Adrian was only 2 years older than me. But in my mother's eyes, he had always been the important one. The golden son. The one whose mistakes were misunderstandings. The one whose arrogance was confidence. The one whose greed was ambition. And me? I was the quiet one. The useful one. The one expected to understand. I stood up. Mr. Whitaker said. Daniel, I know this is difficult. No. I said, my voice shaking. Difficult is watching your father die slowly while your brother visits twice and takes pictures for Facebook. Difficult is hearing your mother tell you to accept being erased. My mother flinched, but Adrian stood. Watch your mouth. I stepped closer to him. Or what? You'll inherit my voice too? For the first time that day, Adrian's mask slipped. His eyes went cold. You always thought being Dad's little helper made you special. I stared at him. He leaned closer. But in the end, he knew who mattered. That broke something in me. Not because I believed him. Because part of me was terrified that maybe my father had believed it too. I walked out of that office with nothing. No money, no house, no family support, no answers. Just a grief so heavy I could barely breathe. For the next few months, I lived in a one-bedroom apartment above a closed-down bakery on the edge of town. The pipes rattled at night. The heat barely worked. My car had a cracked windshield I couldn't afford to replace. Adrian moved into my father's house. My childhood home, the house where Dad taught me how to fix a sink, how to grill steaks, how to change a tire, and how to tell when someone was lying. Mom moved into the guest suite. They hosted dinners there. They invited relatives. They told everyone Dad had wanted Adrian to carry on the family legacy. And when people asked about me, Mom said, Daniel is struggling, but we hope he finds peace. Peace. That was what they called silence when they benefited from it. For the first year, I stayed quiet. I worked 2 jobs. During the day, I managed inventory at a hardware warehouse. At night, I cleaned offices downtown. Sometimes I would pass Adrian's company building while taking the bus home. His name was on a sign in the lobby, polished brass under bright lights. I used to stand outside in the cold and wonder what I had done wrong. Then one night, while cleaning a law office, I found myself staring at a framed quote on the wall. Truth is patient. It waits for the right witness. I don't know why that sentence stayed with me. But it did. Because the truth about my father's will didn't make sense. Dad was many things. Stubborn. Proud. Private. But he was not cruel. And leaving me with nothing after everything I had done for him? That was cruelty. So I started looking. Quietly. At first, I didn't know what I was searching for. I found old emails from Dad saved in my inbox. I reread every message. Most were simple. Can you stop by after work? Bring soup if you can. Don't tell your mother I skipped lunch. But then I found one from 8 months before he died. Subject line: when the time comes. My hands went cold before I even opened it. The email said, Danny, if anything happens and things don't feel right, don't react immediately. Watch. Listen. People reveal themselves when they think they've won. That was it. No explanation. No attachment. Just those words. I read them 10 times. Then 20. That night, I didn't sleep. The next morning, I called Mr. Whitaker's office. His assistant told me he had retired. A week later, I learned he had moved to Arizona. I emailed him. No reply. I sent a letter. No reply. I called again. Disconnected. It felt like every door had been locked before I arrived. So I built my life instead. Not because I forgave them. Because I refused to let their betrayal become my whole identity. I took online accounting classes. Then business law. Then real estate finance. I worked until my eyes burned. I stopped going to family events. Not that I was invited often. At Thanksgiving, my aunt sent me a photo by accident. There was Adrian at the head of Dad's table, carving the turkey with Dad's knife, wearing Dad's watch, the watch Dad had promised me. I stared at that photo for a long time. Then I deleted it. By year 3, I had saved enough to start a small property maintenance company. Nothing glamorous. Leaky faucets. Broken fences. Rental turnovers. Emergency repairs. But I knew how to work, and I knew how to treat people honestly. Landlords started recommending me. Then property managers. Then investors. By year 5, I had a team of 12. By year 6, I owned 3 rental properties. By year 7, I was doing better than Adrian thought I ever could. But I still didn't have the truth. Then everything changed because of a storage unit. It was a Tuesday afternoon when I got a call from a woman named Marlene. She owned a storage facility 2 towns over. Are you Daniel Mercer? She asked. Yes. I have your name listed as the emergency contact on a unit rented by Thomas Mercer. My father. I nearly dropped the phone. My dad died 7 years ago. There was a pause. I'm sorry. The unit has been prepaid for years, but the payment card finally expired. We sent notices, but no one responded. What's in it? I can't say. But if you're the listed contact, you can come verify and claim access. I drove there the same day. The storage facility sat behind a gas station, surrounded by chain link fence and weeds. Marlene was in her 60s, with silver hair and sharp eyes. She asked for my ID, checked a faded file, then handed me a key. Unit C17, she said. Your father rented it about a year before he passed. My hands were shaking when I unlocked the metal door. Inside were boxes. Not furniture. Not junk. Boxes. Labeled in my father's handwriting. Taxes. Medical. House. Daniel. I stood there staring at my own name. Then I opened the box. Inside was a sealed envelope. On the front, Dad had written, for Danny, when they finally show you who they are. I sat down on the concrete floor. For a minute, I couldn't open it. Because part of me was afraid. Afraid it would confirm the will was real. Afraid it would tell me Dad had loved Adrian more. Afraid it would explain everything in a way that still left me abandoned. But then I opened it. The letter was 3 pages long. My father's handwriting was weaker than I remembered, but still clear. Danny. If you are reading this, then I was right to be afraid. I have not told you everything because I did not want your last memories of me to be filled with anger. But you deserve the truth. Your brother has been pressuring me for years to change my will. He believes he is owed everything because he is the eldest. Your mother agrees with him. I did change my will once, but not in the way they think. I created 2 versions. The one they expect to find leaves everything to Adrian. It is bait. The real documents are protected elsewhere. If they use the false will, they will reveal their intent. If your mother supports it, you will know where she stands. I am sorry for testing people you love. But money exposes the heart faster than grief ever could. You are my son. You were never forgotten. Everything I built was meant to protect you, not punish you. Find Evelyn Carter. She has the original trust documents. Do not confront them until you have proof. Dad. I read the letter once. Then again. Then I cried for the first time in 7 years. Not quiet tears. Not controlled grief. I cried like the 29-year-old man who had walked out of that lawyer's office believing his father had erased him. He hadn't. Dad had known. He had seen it all. And he had trusted me to survive long enough to find the truth. The next morning, I searched for Evelyn Carter. She had been my father's former accountant before retiring. I remembered her vaguely from childhood. A tall woman with red glasses who used to bring lemon cookies to our house every Christmas. She was 81 now and living in a retirement community near Asheville. I drove 4 hours to see her. When she opened the door, she looked at me for 3 seconds before saying, "You look just like him." I couldn't speak. She invited me in. Her apartment smelled like tea and old books. I showed her the letter. She read it slowly, then took off her glasses. "I wondered when you would come." "You knew?" "I knew enough." She went to a locked cabinet and pulled out a thick folder. "Your father came to me 9 months before he died. He was afraid Adrian and your mother were manipulating him. He said documents had gone missing from his study. He believed someone had copied his signature." My stomach turned. Copied his signature? Evelyn nodded. "He wanted protection. So we moved certain assets into a trust. The house, the lake property, and several investment accounts were never supposed to pass through the will at all. But Adrian got them. Then someone submitted fraudulent documents. The word fraudulent landed like thunder. Evelyn handed me copies. There was a trust. There were amendments. There were notarized statements. And there was one document that made my hands go numb. A sworn declaration from my father. It said that if any will appeared leaving his full estate to Adrian Mercer, it should be investigated for undue influence or forgery. My father had signed it 6 weeks before he died. "Why didn't this come out?" I asked. Evelyn's face darkened. "Because the attorney handling probate claimed there were no competing documents. I sent notice to Mr. Whitaker's office. Twice. I never received confirmation." Mr. Whitaker, the retired lawyer who vanished. I spent the next month building the case quietly. I hired an estate attorney named Rachel Kim. She was calm, precise, and terrifying in the way only very smart lawyers can be. After reviewing the documents, she looked at me and said, "Daniel, this is not just a family dispute. This may involve fraud, concealment, and possibly criminal conduct." I asked her one question. "Can we prove it?" She said, "Yes. But we need to move carefully." So we did. We requested archived court filings. We subpoenaed notary records. We traced property transfers. We found that 2 months after Dad's death, Adrian had used estate assets as collateral for business loans. Then we found something even worse. The false will had been notarized by a man who was in the hospital on the date listed. A dead end turned into a doorway. The notary's stamp had been stolen. And the person who submitted the false will? Not Mr. Whitaker. My mother. There it was. Her signature. Her affidavit. Her statement claiming Dad had been of sound mind when he supposedly signed everything over to Adrian. My own mother had not simply accepted the lie. She had helped create it. For 2 days after I learned that, I couldn't work. I sat in my kitchen with the documents spread across the table. Every memory of my mother changed shape. Her cold face in the lawyer's office. Her words. "You should accept it." She hadn't been comforting me. She had been warning me to stay quiet. Rachel asked if I wanted to file privately or confront them first. I thought about it. Then I remembered Dad's letter. "Do not confront them until you have proof." Now I had proof. So I decided to let them expose themselves one final time. Every year, Adrian hosted a charity gala at the country club. It was ridiculous, a legacy foundation in my father's name. Thomas Mercer Community Fund. Adrian used Dad's name to shake hands with rich people and pose for photos. He donated just enough to look generous and kept the rest moving through administrative costs. That year, he was receiving an award for preserving family values. Family values. I bought a ticket under my company name. Nobody noticed until I walked in. The room went quiet in small waves. First one table. Then another. Then my mother saw me. She froze. Adrian was near the stage, laughing with the mayor. When he turned and saw me, his smile tightened. He walked over with a glass of champagne in his hand. "Daniel," he said. "Didn't expect to see you here." "I can imagine." Mom came up beside him. She was older now, smaller somehow. But her eyes were the same. "What are you doing here?" she asked. "I came to honor Dad's legacy." Adrian gave a soft laugh. "That's generous, considering you walked away from the family." I looked around at the donors, relatives, business partners, old neighbors. "No," I said, "I was pushed out." Mom's face hardened. "Not tonight." That almost made me smile. For 7 years, they had owned the story. Tonight, I own the truth. The program began. Speeches, applause, a slideshow of Dad's life, edited carefully to feature Adrian in almost every photo. Then Adrian walked onto the stage. He spoke beautifully. I'll give him that. He talked about Dad's integrity. Dad's sacrifice. Dad's belief in family. He even wiped away a tear at the perfect moment. Then he said, "My father trusted me to carry everything forward. That trust has guided every decision I've made." That was when I stood up. The room turned. Adrian stopped. I walked toward the stage. Mom grabbed my arm as I passed. "Daniel," she whispered, "don't you dare. I looked at her hand on my sleeve. Then at her face. You already dared. I stepped onto the stage. Adrian tried to laugh it off. My brother, everyone. Always dramatic. I took the microphone from the stand. Not from his hand. From the stand. There's a difference. I won't take long, I said. The room went silent. For 7 years, many of you believed my father left everything to Adrian. You believed I was bitter. You believed I disappeared because I couldn't accept Dad's decision. Adrian moved toward me. Daniel, this is not the time. I looked at him. It's exactly the time. Rachel stood near the back of the room with a folder in her hands. I continued. My father did not leave everything to Adrian. The will used after his death was fraudulent. A wave of whispers moved through the room. Adrian's face drained. Mom sat down slowly. I held up a copy of Dad's letter. My father knew he was being pressured. He knew documents were being taken. He created a trust to protect his real wishes. Adrian snapped. This is insane. I looked at the audience. The house, the lake property, and several investment accounts were never supposed to go to Adrian. They were placed in a trust. And according to my father's signed declaration, any will leaving everything to Adrian should have been investigated. The mayor stood near the front, looking like he wanted to disappear. An older uncle shouted. What proof do you have? Rachel walked forward. I nodded to her. She handed copies to the event coordinator, who had already agreed to connect my laptop to the projector after I made a donation large enough to get her attention. The screen behind me changed. Documents appeared. Dad's signed declaration. The trust summary. The false notary record. The hospital verification proving the notary could not have witnessed the will. Then the affidavit. My mother's affidavit. Gasps filled the room. My mother whispered, no. I turned to her. You told me to accept it because you thought I would never find this. Adrian lunged toward the laptop, but 2 security guards stopped him. This is slander, he shouted. Rachel calmly stepped onto the stage. No, Mr. Mercer. It is evidence. Filed this morning with the court. Filed this morning. That was the part they didn't know. This wasn't just a public confrontation. It was already legal. Adrian looked at Mom. And in that moment, I saw the truth of their relationship. Not love. Not loyalty. Panic. He pointed at her. She handled the paperwork. The room went dead silent. My mother looked at him as if he had slapped her. Adrian. He backed away. I didn't know it was fraudulent. I almost laughed. There it was. 7 years of brotherhood reduced to self-preservation in under 10 seconds. Mom stood, trembling. You said it was what your father wanted. Adrian snapped. You wanted Daniel out just as much as I did. Every camera phone in the room was raised now. The truth no longer needed me. It was speaking for itself. I looked out at all those people who had believed I was the bitter son. Then I said the final words I had come to say. My father did not build his life so his name could be used as a mask for greed. Tonight, the Thomas Mercer Community Fund is being reported for financial review. The estate case is being reopened. And every stolen asset will be accounted for. Adrian shouted my name. But I was already walking off the stage. For the first time in 7 years, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel erased, I felt free. The aftermath was worse than they expected. The gala video spread through town before midnight. By morning, Adrian's business partners were calling lawyers. By the end of the week, the foundation's accounts were frozen. The court reopened the estate. The false will was challenged. The trust documents were validated. The lake property was returned to the trust. The house was tied up pending review. Adrian's loans became a problem because he had borrowed against assets that were never legally his. Banks don't like that. Neither do prosecutors. Mom called me 12 times in one day. I didn't answer. Then she came to my office. My assistant asked if I wanted security to escort her out. I almost said yes. But then I saw her through the glass wall. She looked old, not because of age. Because lies take something from people when they finally collapse. I let her in. She stood in front of my desk, clutching her purse like a shield. Daniel, she said. I waited. She started crying. I made mistakes. I said nothing. I was grieving. Adrian told me your father wanted him to handle things. I thought. No. I said. She stopped. You didn't think. You chose. Her mouth trembled. He was always more fragile than you. That sentence almost broke my calm. Adrian? She nodded through tears. He needed more. I stood up slowly. And because he needed more? I deserved nothing? No, that's not what I mean. It is exactly what you mean. She looked away. I walked to the window. Outside, my crew was loading equipment into one of our company trucks. 7 years earlier, I had been cleaning offices at midnight. Now my name was on the building. Not because anyone handed it to me, because I rebuilt myself from the wreckage they left behind. I turned back to her. Dad was dying, and I was there. I fed him, bathed him, sat beside him, held his hand when he was scared. Where was Adrian? She cried harder. He didn't know how to handle it. But I did? She had no answer. That was the story of my life. Adrian was protected from responsibility. I was punished with it. Finally, she whispered, "Can you forgive me?" I looked at her for a long time. "I don't hate you." Hope flashed in her eyes. But I continued. "And I don't trust you." Her face collapsed. "Daniel, you didn't just steal money from me. You helped steal my last memory of Dad. For 7 years, I wondered why he abandoned me. You let me believe that." She covered her mouth. "I'm sorry. I know. And I did know." Maybe she was sorry. Maybe she was just scared. Maybe both. But sorry doesn't rebuild trust. Sorry doesn't return 7 years. Sorry doesn't undo the nights I lay awake thinking my father had chosen Adrian because I wasn't enough. I walked to the door and opened it. "We'll speak through attorneys from now on." She stared at me. "You're cutting me off?" "No," I said. "I'm accepting what you taught me." She left crying. This time, I did not follow. Adrian tried to fight. Of course he did. He claimed Dad had been confused. Then he claimed I forged the storage letter. Then he claimed Mom manipulated him. Then Mom claimed Adrian manipulated her. Their lawyers started turning on each other before the first hearing. It was almost impressive. The truth didn't need to be dramatic. It was documented. Clean. Organized. Patient. Exactly like Dad had planned. 6 months later, the court invalidated the fraudulent will. The trust was recognized. Several assets were restored. Adrian was forced to sell his vacation home to cover debts. His company lost 2 major contracts. The foundation was dissolved. Mom avoided prison by cooperating, but her reputation never recovered. As for me, I received what Dad had intended. Not everything. That surprised people. Dad had not left me the entire estate. He had divided it in a way that made sense. Some money to charity, some to long-term family maintenance. Some to me. Even a smaller protected portion for Adrian, if he had acted honestly. That part hurt in a strange way. Because Dad had not hated Adrian. He had given him a chance. Adrian was the one who destroyed it. The house came back to the trust. I could have moved in. Everyone expected me to. But when I walked through the front door for the first time in 7 years, I didn't feel home. I saw Dad's chair. The staircase. The kitchen table. The doorway where Mom had measured our heights in pencil when we were kids. I also saw Adrian carving turkey in Dad's seat. Mom telling me to accept it. Relatives looking away. Memories can be stolen from a house just like money. So I sold it. Not immediately. First, I took Dad's watch from Adrian. He gave it back through his attorney in a padded envelope. No note. No apology. I opened the envelope alone. The watch was scratched. Worn. Still ticking. I held it in my palm and remembered being 15, standing in the garage while Dad changed the oil in his truck. He had tapped the watch and said, "One day, this is yours." Not because it's expensive. Because time is the only thing worth respecting. For 7 years, they had stolen my time. But not the rest of it. I sold the house to a young couple with 2 kids. Before closing, I walked through every room. In Dad's study, behind an old built-in shelf, I found one more thing. A small carving in the wood. D. M. My initials. And under them, barely visible. Steady one. I smiled. Then I walked out and locked the door. A year after the gala, Adrian asked to meet. I almost refused. But curiosity won. We met at a diner off the highway. He looked different. Less polished. Thinner. Still handsome, but worn around the edges. He sat across from me and didn't order food. "I lost almost everything," he said. I stirred my coffee. "You lost what wasn't yours." His jaw tightened. Then loosened. "I know." That surprised me. He looked out the window. "I hated you." "I know." His eyes flicked back to me. "Dad trusted you. Even when I was older. Even when I was the one doing everything right on paper. You weren't doing everything right." He gave a humorless laugh. "No. I was doing everything visible." That was the most honest thing Adrian had ever said to me. He rubbed his hands together. "Mom always made me feel like I had to win, and you chose to believe winning meant taking from me." He nodded. "For once, no excuse. I'm not asking for money." "Good. I'm not asking you to fix anything." "Also good." He swallowed. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry." I looked at him. There had been a time when those words would have saved me. At 29, sitting in that lawyer's office, I would have given anything for Adrian to say them. At 36, they were just words. Not meaningless. But not enough. "I hear you," I said. His face fell slightly. That was all I could give him. He nodded. Then he stood to leave. At the door, He turned back. Did Dad really leave me something? I took a slow breath. Yes. His eyes shone. If you had told the truth, you would have been taken care of. He looked down. For the first time in my life, Adrian looked like a man who understood the size of what he had lost. Not the money, the chance. After he left, I sat there until my coffee went cold. I didn't feel victorious. That may disappoint some people. Revenge stories are supposed to end with fireworks. With enemies destroyed. With the hero laughing over the ruins. But real life is quieter. The truth didn't give me back my father. It didn't give me 7 years. It didn't give me a mother I could trust or a brother I could love without caution. But it gave me something. It gave me my father's voice back. For 7 years, I had carried a question like a stone in my chest. Why wasn't I enough? The answer was simple. I had always been enough. Greedy people just needed me to believe I wasn't. Today, Dad's watch sits on my desk. I don't wear it often, not because I'm afraid to damage it. Because I like seeing it while I work. A reminder. Time reveals people. Pressure reveals people. Money reveals people. But truth? Truth waits. And when it finally arrives, it does not need to shout. It just opens the door, walks into the room, and lets everyone see what was hidden. My brother got everything when Dad died. My mother told me to accept it. And for 7 years, they thought I had. But I wasn't accepting the lie. I was surviving long enough to expose the truth. And once I did, they lost the only thing they had left. The story they had told about me.